Okay, guys, so what I want to talk to you about today is just a little impromptu video about my mentality of product development, gear development, and how I design some of the products I design, and kind of where some of my inspirations come from, because this little kit right here is fantastic. And some of these things have been reproduced, some of them haven't, but I wanted to show it to you today and kind of let you understand how my brain thinks when I'm doing this kind of stuff, okay? And almost everything I design comes from antique designs of things that were used in the 20th century, early 20th century, the mid 20th century, and they were all good items. And there's no sense in trying to fix something that's not broken. You just redesign it with modern materials and you do it, okay? And so when I'm putting kits together, that's my mentality. Now, okay, so I was asked in a video not long ago why I didn't make the new carbon steel skillet 6 inches instead of 8 inches. I already had the stainless steel 8-inch skillet, so why not make the carbon steel 6 inches? And there are reasons for that, but you have to understand the way my brain works to be able to realize why I did it. So as we're talking about kit development, kit design, and looking at this small kit here that I want to show you today, that's an antique, I want to explain to you how I think, all right? If you think about things logically, when you're looking at an antique item, let's just take cold handle skillets as a good example, all right? And you're going to develop that item or redevelop that item somehow. The 6-inch cold handle skillets are very, very easy to find. There are lots of them out there, lots of different brands. A lot of them have brands on them from actual chain stores like Woolworth and things like that, Kresge. Some of them had manufacturing stamps on them from different places they were made. They had advertising ones like Snow King baking powder in a 7-inch skillet. And all of those skillets are very prevalent to this day. The Snow King's a little harder to find than the 7-inch, but the 6-inch skillets are very prevalent. And so if you look at cold handle skillets as a collector, and I am a collector. I've been a collector of cold handle skillets for 20 years. I introduced some people the first time to cold handle skillets, gave them the first cold handle skillet they ever had. And so I know cold handle skillets very well. I know the history of them and I understand it, okay? And I have about 20 or 30, maybe 40 cold handle skillets in my collection that are all distinctly different, or they're in sets, all right? And one of the things that I found is that the 8 and 10-inch skillets are the hardest to find in good shape. They're either rippled on the bottom from being overheated, the handles are roached out and rusted through, or they're bent or dinged up, but yet the 6-inch skillets are fairly easy to find. The bigger skillets, like 11 inches, 12 inches, you don't find them as often either, but when you find them, they're generally in pretty decent shape. But the fact that the 6-inch skillets are so prevalent, to me, means people didn't use them, right? Think about that. If you have something that's 100 years old and it's used all the time, the chances of it surviving 100 years, 120 years later are pretty slim, okay? So if those 6-inch skillets are so prevalent, to me, that says people didn't use them. If the 8-inch skillets are very unprevalent, and the ones that you do find generally are damaged, and it's hard to find them in good, pristine condition, that means people used them until they were wore out, and then they just threw them in a scrap pile somewhere, and they're buried in somebody's dump site. So when I was looking at developing a skillet, I wanted something that was going to be useful to the woodsman, that wasn't going to be too big, not too small, would cook enough food for one person easy enough, but could cook enough people for two if it needed to. And an 8 and 10-inch size skillet is perfect for that. A 6-inch is too small. I have plenty of 6-inch skillets. I've used them lots and lots of times, and I've always found that they were too small for my needs when it comes to cooking meals in camp. Other than if you're just going to cook a couple pieces of bacon and an egg, you're not cooking very much in one of the 6-inch cold handle skillets. I think that if you look at some of the older texts from the early 1900s, I believe it was Warren Miller wrote a book called The Sportsman's Workshop. And I did a video about that in the past called The Sportsman's Workshop, if I remember right. But tinkering around with gear and prepping gear and getting gear ready for the next season, all those type things were something that sportsmen have done since the beginning of time when we started recreating in the outdoors for pleasure. And so building kits and doing different things is part of that sportsman's workshop and mentality of building kits for the outdoors. And what I want to show you today is I kind of want to show you a concept of where my ideas sometimes come from and kind of let you flow through my mind how things work. Because I've got a small skillet kit here, okay? And you're going to recognize things about this kit because I've developed them with modern materials. You're also going to see a couple things that are different. That doesn't mean they're not coming. It means at this point they're different. But all of this kit, and there's only 3 pieces in this kit, so it's not a giant kit or anything, but these 3 pieces were all put together at separate times and purchased separately. But they all fit together in a really, really nice small kit, and they work well together. And I think that's what kit development, kit mentality, gear design, and gear development is all about. So I've got a bag here, this is just a badger claw canvas bag, okay? This is not an antique. Everything inside the bag is an antique. So you're not going to just be able to go out and rush out and buy this stuff. Let's say that right off the bat, okay? So what I've got here is I've got a fairly compact, flat system here, all right? Now, the first thing on the top of the skillet kit is actually a collapsible canvas water bucket, okay? And don't be fooled by canvas water buckets that you've seen in the past, because this one is very, very small. This is, so you can realize by comparison, this is an 8-inch skillet, all right? And this bag collapses straight down into that skillet. So this bag is much smaller than the normal bags that you see out there that are reproductions on the market. But it gives you a canvas water bucket for bringing water back to camp. And of course, this skillet is an AGM. So you can look at this and you can say, okay, well, that's where Dave got the idea for the folding skillet at right there. And you would be exactly right with that, okay? Nothing new, just redeveloped in the 21st century, first in stainless steel, now in case hardened carbon steel. But this was the carbon steel skillet of the day. These are fairly rare and not easy to find. I own 4 of these. 3 of them are in 8-inch and 1 of them is in 10-inch. 2 of them came in a Forest Service cook set. 2 of them were found separately, as this one was. This one is the only AGM branded one that I own, all right? So it's got pour spouts on the side, which is pretty cool. Those are more difficult to put in nowadays than they were back then because this is thinner gauge sheet steel, which most factories don't want to work with nowadays. But it's a very nice skillet. I've used it a lot, and it works well. As you can see, the handle folds underneath. And I think that's key to a lot of this stuff because design is important. If you nest this handle inside the skillet, you're not putting anything else in there. You're done. You carry the skillet, and that's it, okay? If it folds underneath, I can nest things inside the skillet, either shallow or as high as I want to go, depending on the bag I'm carrying. And the Forest Service cook set is exactly that. It has 2 of these skillets nested inside of it, 2 cook pots, a coffee pot, 2 cups, 2 plates, 2 bowls. And it's like this high, okay? And that is exactly where I developed the cook set that we currently sell today, okay? Is off of that cook set. U.S. Forest Service cook set from the 1930s, 40s, okay? Now, so the skillet was bought separately. Now, the bucket was bought separately from the skillet, and the bucket collapses, as we said. Collapsing canvas bucket fits very nicely in the skillet. Now, what's the coup de grace here, okay? Let's look at this piece. Again, another antique, okay? This is a braising rack, for lack of a better word. Again, very familiar with the braising rack in the skillet that we sell today because I have a braising rack for my skillet. However, it has 2 legs on it that swivel up. Fold these underneath and they stop on those legs that sit down in your skillet. So you could actually put that between a couple logs and you'd have a cook rack that you could cook on with your skillet. You could also take a pot chain from a bush pot, like the bush pot chain I carry, and you can hang this over the fire, either this way or this way, and cook on it that way. So there's lots of versatility in a rack like this. So now I can put the braising rack in the bottom here, and it fits in there just perfectly and lays flat, all right? And then, depending on how you lay the legs, it lays flatter one way than the other. Take the bucket and lay it right on top and squeeze it down. And now I have a very compact kit that I can bring water to camp, I can cook in my skillet, and if I need anything bigger than this, I can carry a bush pot, but I can boil water in the skillet, and I can cook almost anything in a skillet. So unless I'm making a stew, and even that can be made in a deep-sided skillet, and that's why our skillet has 2-inch sides on it that we developed, because a deep skillet's what you want if you're gonna cook 1 skillet meals, and you're gonna use that skillet for cooking a lot. You don't want something that's only got sides on it like that high. You're not gonna be able to cook anything in it that sautés or has sauces or any of that stuff without making a big mess. You want something that's got high sides on it. And so this kit is something that I developed for myself as a kind of a vintage outfit, but it gives me lots of ideas, as you can see, for modern day equipment. You know, they say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, this stuff's not broke. So other than recreating it in modern materials and making it a little bit more conducive for use today, it ain't broke. Ain't no sense in fixing it, right? So that really kind of walks you through my mentality, right? I'm always looking for stuff. And I'm always, when I'm out picking or when I'm out at a yard sale or at some kind of a huge sale, countywide sale, something like that, I'm always looking for little stuff. And I'm looking for things. My brain is always like analyzing what's going to work with what. And when I saw that braising rack, I was like, I think that's going to fit a skillet. Let me grab that. And it fits perfect. When I saw that collapsible water bucket, I was like, man, I've never seen anything 8 inches in diameter like that small that was collapsible canvas bucket. That should fit in a skillet too. Hence this kit, right? So now I've got the water bucket, the rack, the skillet, all in one inclusive kit. Very, very simple to carry. Stuff in a backpack. I'm ready to go, right? That was just a quick video to kind of show you how my mind works, kind of to tell you how I develop my ideas, kind of a way of showing you how my brain comes up with the ideas it does to make the different sets and implements that we come up with. They're generally based on antique items that were used in the outdoors. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you joining me today for this quick video on kind of my mentality behind kit development, some of the reasons I develop things the way I do, and just a look at another kit that I've only developed pieces and parts off of to this point, but it's a very cool set that I kind of put together over time by thinking, hey, that will work with that. That will work with that. That's very versatile. Let me add that to this kit. And I think that's exactly what sportsmen did back in the early 20th century. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for school, for family, and for business. For all of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends, and I hope to see you out here at the Pathfinder School in 2025 to train with us. Thanks, guys. Thanks.